On one chilly December morning, many years ago, an interesting gear accessory was uploaded to the Roblox catalog. It was titled Shards in the Code, Season 1, Episode 1, and it looked like this. A hardcover book whose cover featured a nondescript young Caucasian man, his fingertips lit up and surrounded by some sort of high-tech looking hologram, standing in front of an abstract blue background with the text Infinite Worlds Roblox, Season 1, Episode 1, Shards in the Code, J.D. Pierce superimposed over him. Its description read, "The battle to save Earth begins online, when an average teenager who loves to build worlds on Roblox soon discovers that the real world faces a grave danger that only he can prevent." Available on Amazon. There were a few reactions from the community, mostly confusion and annoyance that Roblox would make something so nerdy and cringeworthy as a sci-fi book, but most people who saw it just picked it up for 1 Tix, which was basically free at the time, and moved on with their lives. This happened in 2014, and the book has been doing nothing but fade into obscurity ever since. Until my hyperfixating ass came along and yanked it right back out again. Recently, I was browsing the Roblox catalog, as I often do, and at some point I stumbled across a Roblox gear that I had never seen before. Now, not to brag or anything, but I've seen a good amount of the Roblox catalog before. If you show me a random Roblox-created accessory, chances are higher than not that I've laid eyes on it at least once. Ladies and gentlemen, one at a time. So the fact that I hadn't seen this one was already intriguing, and when I clicked on it and saw what it was, that intriguingness multiplied by about 100,000. I've already read an insane Roblox-related roleplay thread on this channel before, and you guys all seem to love that. I still get requests for a part 2, which is still definitely happening at a certain milestone, perhaps? But an officially Roblox-licensed and endorsed sci-fi book about a teenage Roblox developer trying to stop an alien invasion is something I already knew I had to read for this channel. It was my duty as a YouTuber to bring this thing out into the public eye to be pointed and laughed at. So I went on Amazon, as the description told me to, plugged Shards in the Code into the search bar, and yeah, if you've seen the runtime of this video, you already know it wasn't gonna be that easy. That's okay though, I wasn't really expecting to be able to buy the book right from the Amazon page like that. The book had come out in 2014 and received almost no hype since then. I sure as heck hadn't heard of it before discovering that Roblox gear, so I had already assumed it was probably not being sold from its original store on Amazon anymore. However, people leak the text of books online for free all the time, and additionally, ebooks exist. Also, the book was promoted Roblox-wide with this 1 Tix gear, which stayed on sale long after the book's release. I didn't know how many actual book sales that translated to, but given Roblox's user count in late 2014, I assumed it was at least in the multiple thousands. So there had to be third-party resellers out there. And so, armed with Google, the search term, quote, Infinite Worlds Roblox, end quote, and sheer determination, my quest began. How has no one uploaded even like a page of this book to Google? Like, what the fuck? It didn't go as expected. I'll be blunt. This Googling went on for multiple days on end. I'm on a new ADHD medication right now, and that combined with my absolute fascination with the idea of this long-forgotten official Roblox sci-fi book series made it so that I very nearly forgot to eat on multiple occasions this week because I was too busy scrolling through Google results and compiling a stalker-like manifesto of links to pretty much every webpage on the internet that's even loosely related to it. This is, no exaggeration, everything that can be known about these books short of actually reading them. I'm sure of it. I don't think I've ever researched something this thoroughly in my entire life. I was more desperate to find book pages this week than Slenderman's victims. It was bad. And so, before I tell you about my quest to track down these books, I think it would be a good idea for us to go over all of the information about them that I found. Partly because it'll help contextualize some of the things I did to find the books, and partly because this was my entire week and I refuse to let it go to waste. So, let's go ahead and start with Directly related links are links that lead directly to an instance of some portion of the books. If you go to any of these links, you will see content that's part of the books, most likely the front or back cover. A good example of this is the Amazon page we saw earlier for Shards in the Code. As you can see, we have an image of the front cover, an image of the back cover, and a scale image showing the book's dimensions. If the book were in stock, we would also be able to buy the entire thing from here. In fact, the vast majority of these directly related links consist of bookselling websites which, at least at one time, sold copies of the IWR books. Let's take a closer look at this Amazon page. Its description is much more detailed than the one on Roblox. It reads, "The battle to save Earth begins online. Season 1, Episode 1. Max is your average teenager who loves to build worlds in the online game, Roblox. But when something extraordinary happens inside Level Arcadia, his most detailed world, he soon discovers that everything in the real world is in grave danger from an alien invasion that only he can prevent. Infinite Worlds Roblox unfolds over 6 books of approximately 150 pages each, 20,000 words, with the first 5 books ending in epic cliffhangers." And indeed, after a bit of digging, I was able to find Amazon pages for all 6 of the promised 6 books. Also, yes, I did check whether Level Arcadia is a real Roblox game, and turns out it is, though I'm not entirely sure why it would be anyone's most popular Roblox game. So, here are all the remaining books. Episode 2, The Shadows Spark. After being told what they are up against, Max and Terry reluctantly agree to enter the world of Roblox. But Chester fails to reveal a secret as he straps them into the alien-created machine, a secret he plans to keep from them until it is too late. Episode 3, The Dangerous Guardian. With Max now missing, Terry finds herself alone and hunted by the police. An unexpected ally appears who says he knows what happened to Max and promises to help her, but only if she agrees to his demands first. Episode 4, The Hunter's Graveyard. On the run, Max and Terry are driven into the underground, where they make a startling discovery that they were not the first to enter into this simulated world in search of Thomas, but the underground holds even more dangers for them at every turn. Episode 5, Fog of Heroes. What even are these names, man? They're not even related to the cover art or plot in any way. Like, what's so heroic about Fog? With Max and Terry captured, the plan to retrieve Thomas has fallen apart. Chester has a final option strategy to help the aliens, but there are people in the real world who will stop at nothing to prevent it. And Episode 6, World of Flame. In the explosive conclusion to Infinite Worlds Roblox Season 1, Chester and 1X play a dangerous game of cat and mouse with each other and the United States military. But can Chester come out on top to save the world from someone bent on its destruction? This is the most bare-bones plot synopsis I could have asked for, but it does still reveal some details. We've got a second protagonist called Terry, who I assume is supposed to be this stock photo model that I found by accident while reverse image searching one of the covers. We've also got a chaotic anti-hero called Chester, who seemingly starts out bad and turns good by the end, and a mysterious character called Thomas that they're trying to retrieve. The protagonists get separated, they find each other and go into hiding, they get captured, all leading up to a climactic fight against the literal United States military, and a main antagonist called 1X. I can only assume that this is referring to the classic mythical Roblox exploiter 1x1x1x1, which, if true, would be the only explicitly Roblox-related thing mentioned in the entire plot outside of saying the word Roblox. We'd gone so long without mentioning Roblox that it was actually kind of jarring to see that come up. There's also one more thing that these Amazon pages reveal. It seems that these books had a second author not mentioned on the cover. J.D. Pierce is credited as the author here, but down here and in the title, we see the name Steve DeWinter. This is a very interesting man, to say the least, but we'll talk about him later. Unfortunately, that's about as helpful as these Amazon pages get. Each one is either out of stock or out of print, and there don't seem to be any electronic copies up for sale either. But Amazon's not the only place online that helps people buy books. There's also Goodreads. Goodreads looked like a lot more promising of a source to find these books from. The information on it is largely the same as Amazon, but unlike Amazon, Goodreads is a site entirely dedicated to books, and if a book is out there for sale, you're more than likely to find it through their Get a Copy Of menu. Amazon is just one of the options found through this menu, and they've also got Audible, Barnes & Noble, Abe Books, Walmart eBooks, Apple Books, Google Play, Alibris, Indigo, Better World Books, Libraries, IndieBound, Thrift Books. I've never even heard of half of these websites before, and Goodreads has links to the IWR Books' pages on them ready and raring to go. One of these websites has to have at least one of the books still up. Right? Well, Audible, no results found. Barnes & Noble, sorry, we couldn't find what you're looking for. Abe Books, we were unable to find exact matches. I did find Abe Books pages for the IWR Books later, but they were unhelpful. Walmart eBooks, nothing. Apple Books only works if you have iTunes, which I don't, but I borrowed someone else's iPhone just for this, and still nothing. Google Play, no book results found. Alibris, no dice. Indigo, nada. Better World Books, zip. IndieBound, more like indie not found. And Thrift Books? More like shit. Yes, even with Goodreads' extensive catalog of booksellers, I still could not find a single copy of any of these books up for grabs. I checked this Get a Copy Of menu for all 6 of the books, and none of them were helpful. Each one, be it a new book site, a used book site, or an ebook site, led to dead ends, and I was beginning to feel like I was losing my mind by the end of it. And then I checked the libraries button. Maybe it was the fact that my brain had already started to turn to mush after repeatedly scrolling through dead web pages so many times, but I had kind of written off libraries as just the name of another seller that probably didn't have the books in stock. Turns out, no. Libraries led me to a website called WorldCat, which I think is short for World Catalog. It's a catalog of all of the books at all of the libraries out there that have a WorldCat subscription, and you can use it to find whatever book you're looking for at a library near you completely for free. Given the fact that no used copies were being sold, I didn't really expect much from this. After all, what would a library want with a low-budget looking 150-page Amazon release that came out 10 years ago? But lo and behold, I scrolled down, and bingo. There was a copy of the book that eluded me at every online seller out there, sitting just within reach at a library about 3.5 hours away from me. This seemed huge, but unfortunately, one click through would dash my hopes yet again. Apparently, WorldCat is only as accurate with knowing which books are at which libraries as the libraries that subscribe to them are with reporting those facts. I guess Noble Libraries here hasn't been keeping up to date with that because, sorry, no entries were found. I also checked this second library, which was all the way in Indiana, just for laughs, and it turned up blank as well. But then I noticed something. I was in the Featured Libraries tab, and that's not all WorldCat has to offer. Switching to the All Libraries tab, I saw one more option. The Coalinga Huron Library District in Coalinga, California. I found their website, typed in the name of the book, and double bingo. There was just one problem. I don't live anywhere near Coalinga, California, but I do have contact with over 150,000 Roblox nerds, at least one of whom I knew likely does. So I made a community post asking anyone who lives near that library to contact me at my business email so we could work out a way to obtain that book and scan its pages. And a few of you guys were willing to do so, including George Flores, Stephanie Lopez, and my friend Oreo Bird. He lives in California, but the wrong half of it. California is a massive state if you don't know, but he has another friend that does live relatively near Coalinga, and that friend called the library asking if they could ship it to him, only to find that they discovered the book was out of print and took it out of public access. Just as the book seemed in my grasp, ready to make its way over to me, it slipped right through my fingers. It seemed that the gods of books themselves were taunting me, dangling a carrot in front of my face and pulling it away at the last second. They wanted to see me chase. They wanted to see me suffer. And I simply could not let them win. So I pressed on through my Google search, collecting every single link that ever mentioned these books into my document. I found Google Books pages for all of them, which led me to a few more buying options, none of which sadly were of any use. I found FictionDB pages, which were largely the same way. You know you're scraping the bottom of the barrel when you end up on an Australian reselling website called Fish Pond. Or how about a website called Desert Cart, which has separate stores for Trinidad, Tobago, Fiji, Suriname, Oman, Brunei, Kuwait, El Salvador, Seychelles, Botswana, Cyprus, and Bolivia, all of which have a different copy of this book listed for some reason. By the way, when I first entered the page for this one from Kuwait, it was listed as on sale at a price of around 644 Kuwaiti dinar, aka 2100 USD. And then, after a few seconds, it refreshed and said it was out of stock. It was probably just a glitch, but it kind of looked like someone just snatched it right out from under my nose for multiple thousands of dollars as I was viewing the page. And if that's true, I would have to say some words that I cannot say on YouTube. Jesus Christ. Biblio, UPC Index, Books Run, Dogo Books, Bookswagon, even an Italian site called Libreria Universitaria. All duds. They had pages for the books, but no matter what, they were always out of stock, out of print, dead ends. Except for one. OfferUp is a reselling site, similar to eBay and Facebook Marketplace, and apparently some kind, brave user of this site was in possession of not one, not two, but all 6 books in the Infinite Worlds Roblox series, and he was willing to let them go for a measly $200. This was down from $500, which at this point I was more than willing to pay. $200 was a literal steal. I knew I had to buy this instantly, so frantically I searched for the buy button, and then the other shoe dropped. Last updated 8 months ago. Sold. The book gods had snatched away that carrot once again. Okay, enough's enough. This is preposterous. Time and time again, I've found former listings online that once sold these books. I've just been late to the punch every single time. It pains me to know that if I had started this search just 8 months earlier, I could have easily obtained the entire series, but at the very least, I now know that there are owners of these books out there, and at least one of them is willing to sell them. And I'm willing to bet that the reason why many more haven't is because they've simply forgotten they own them. It's not exactly a memorable series unless you're an insane person who investigates anything they find with the classic Roblox logo on it like I am. Official channels have failed me, the book gods are unwilling to cooperate, I have only one option left. And that's to go stalker mode. If the owners of these books weren't going to come to me, I would have to come to them. And I started with the only person who I knew without a shadow of a doubt would have things to tell me about these books, their author, J.D. Pierce. Or rather, Steve DeWinter. Through my digging, I found out that old Steve here isn't actually the secret second author of these books, but instead the only author. J.D. Pierce is just a pseudonym of his. So this is our actual author, Steve DeWinter, and he is one hell of a guy. He has numerous flexes to throw around. Apparently he sold over 100,000 books, been at the top of a few different bestseller lists, and co-written books with Charles Dickens of all people. Bit of a clickbaity way to say you wrote a parody of a Charles Dickens book, but hey, whatever floats your salary. But those are just sales statistics, and not as important to me as the impact my writing has with even the most hesitant of readers due to the care and craft I put into each and every story. I love getting emails and letters from young readers, both boys and girls, because I write action stories with heart, parents and teachers thanking me for writing something young readers want to read and who often stay up for just one more chapter when they should be asleep. I am grateful every day to be given the opportunity to entertain my fans and turn reluctant readers into rabid readers. I'm ragging on the guy a little bit just because I think it's funny, but from what I've seen of him, he's actually really nice and seems to genuinely care about entertaining children. Here's a promotional video he made about Infinite Worlds Roblox.
Danger, excitement, adventure. Hey, I wanted to thank everyone for making my last series #1 on Amazon's children's action-adventure sci-fi bestseller list. And now I want to introduce you to my latest licensed series, Infinite Worlds Roblox. I want you to know what thousands of readers have already discovered about how exciting these books are. And don't be the last one on your block to know who the villain is by the end of this book. So click on the links here, and everywhere, and get your book today.
It's not easy to fake that level of excitement about Roblox. Just ask any Roblox YouTuber. He also did a YouTube Let's Play series for a while called Old Dog New Tricks, where he let his son teach him how to play various Roblox games, and used it to promote various books of his, including Infinite Worlds Roblox. Even though the production quality isn't the best, it's still heartwarming to see how much fun he's having in these, and how much he clearly loves his son. He managed to rack up nearly 2,000 subscribers doing this, and it's easy to see why. He's a little bit of a bag chaser. He bought in hard to the metaverse craze a while back, only for it to crash and burn a couple of years later.
Those who have completed all of Steve's Story School's lessons are encouraged to visit our metaverse mega yacht as often as possible to socialize with other students and alumni. At the very least, return often to check the calendar for newly posted upcoming events that you might be interested in attending. All of these extras are covered by your student alumni membership fee, and I want you to keep coming back for more.
But overall, seems like a chill dude. So I shot him an email, and I had pretty high hopes that he would respond. And later that night, he did. Hey Nitro Lord, well, isn't this a blast from the past? Winky face. My publishing company negotiated a license with Roblox, and we produced a 6-book series under the title of Infinite Worlds Roblox, with Shards in the Code being the first episode in that series. We enjoyed creating it, and worked very closely with the staff at Roblox to develop a story that incorporated some of the early Roblox lore, most notably 1x1x1x1. Roblox user Telemon, who was also the creative director at Roblox from 2006 until 2014, posted a number of stories about Roblox's backstory to the news. One of these included mentions of 2x2, the first brick. Copied over and over, every other brick were its descendants. Then, in a footnote, he mentions the evil 1x1x1x1. We took that bit of Robloxian history and used it to define the villain in the series. I am personally very proud of the clever way we incorporated it into the overall story. Unfortunately, I do not have any physical copies to sell. I'm afraid physical copies will be very hard to come by, as the license was not renewed after the initial year, and the series went officially out of print. Finding and gathering a complete set in the wild will be the ultimate quest, as there are literally only 10 complete sets that can ever be brought together. Should you choose to embark on such a quest, and even blog about your heroic journey, here are how many physical copies were ever sold of each episode. 169 Shards in the Codes, 54 The Shadows Sparks, 34 The Dangerous Guardians, 22 The Hunter's Graveyards, 14 Fog of Heroes, and 10 World of Flames. Another challenge may be the monetary costs of such an endeavor. Back in 2015, I found a used paperback copy of my media tie-in novel Shards in the Code, Infinite Worlds Roblox, listed by a seller on Amazon for $9,587.80, plus $3.99 for shipping. Yes! $10,000 for a single book. One of my books. I wish I had some physical copies to sell at that time. As time marches on, prices may have corrected themselves, as this was pretty soon after the series went out of print. I apologize I am unable to do more to help you locate actual copies of this series, and should you endeavor to track down one of the only 10 copies of the final book to build a complete set, I wish you the best of luck. All my best, Steve DW. Well, that's disheartening. I mean, I knew I probably wouldn't end up finding the entire series. I wasn't expecting to. I'd kind of already gotten the vibe that book 6 was super rare based on the fact that it almost never came up during my research. But to learn exactly how rare it was, wow, that really hurt, like, legitimately. Especially knowing that just 8 months ago, one could have been in my grasp along with the entire rest of the series for just $200. To know that only 10 of those at max could ever exist, and to know that one of them just slipped through my fingers like that, was indescribably frustrating. I thanked Steve for his wordy and informative response, and made sure to clarify that even the digital text of the books would do. I didn't require physical copies, but he never got back to me. So I guess even the author of Infinite Worlds Roblox doesn't have access to it anymore. It's like the instant Steve's license with Roblox ended, Roblox did everything in their power to completely strip this series from digital media. The Amazon pages were immediately shuttered, the Barnes & Noble pages purged from existence, the Google Play, Apple, and Audible ebooks vanished without a trace. Roblox was determined not to let a single dollar more flow into the pockets of old Stevie D for a product that used their IP. This was unacceptable. There had to be someone out there who had these books. I just had to find them. Let's head back to where we first started, the Amazon page for Shards in the Code. Before, we did a pretty thorough investigation of it, but we forgot to do one thing: scroll down. This reveals the customer reviews section. Ordinarily, this would be pretty unhelpful in finding owners, as most people don't leave a whole lot of identifying information in their Amazon profile. But remember, the people reading this book are Roblox kids, and keeping identifying information private is not their forte. As such, the majority of these reviewers decided to leave their Roblox usernames in their reviews. Gatelord10 doesn't seem to have bought the book, and Zamcam is terminated, but Seymour Butts1234, now known as Kuza, is very much alive, and he apparently read and loved this book. The socials he has linked on his profile are out of date, but with a bit of Googling, I was able to find his current YouTube channel, which led me to his current Instagram, which led me to his Linktree, which led me to his Discord server. So, I sent him a DM. And he responded back, confirming that yes, he had bought the book, but it was an e-copy and it was on an old Amazon profile that Amazon did not want to let him back into. Apparently, the only way he can get it unsuspended is by calling Amazon customer support in the US, and since he lives in New Zealand, he can't afford to do that right now. He was able to retrieve the order confirmation email, but not much else. There was only one other interesting review here. It was by Roblox user SarkCat123, who claimed that the book was bad, like really bad. They didn't have any active socials linked, but they did have Roblox messages open, so I messaged them about it, and apparently they didn't actually read the book, they were just being an edgy jokester preteen. It seems that Amazon is in cahoots with the book gods to make me suffer. They're on to me. However, maybe YouTube would be a little bit more forgiving. Turns out, Steve's YouTube promotion that I showed you earlier went a little bit viral. It's the most popular video on Steve's channel by far, at 8.1k views. And with many views come comments. There were only 13 of them, unfortunately, but one of them, sent 4 years ago from the user LoveDogs4989, piqued my interest.
Hi, Steve. I see your book on Amazon for $900. Is that correct?
Hi, Eric. That would be someone who has a physical copy trying to sell it. Since there are so few out in the wild, those that are out there become more valuable as they are rare.
Thanks for the quick reply. I actually bought the whole series, book 1 through 6, for my son years ago and just found them all. I'm sitting on a gold mine.
Analog winky face. Are you f***ing kidding me? Another complete set. Another of just 10 infinitesimally small chances to read this entire series. We gotta find this guy. Checking the LoveDogs4989 channel, it's pretty barren except for a few videos about what else? Dogs. None of them have many views, but I thought I might as well take a shot in the dark and watch some of them just in case any identifying information might be found within them. So I went to his most recent video, scrolled down a little bit, and found this 10 months ago. Hey, I recently saw your comment on another video about your Shards in the Code book collection. I was wondering how much you would want for either the first book or the whole series.
Shoot me an offer. Worst I can say is no.
10 months ago. Hi, you might not see this, but do you still have the Shards of Code Infinite Worlds still? They are super rare, and I was wondering if you still have them.
Any idea how much they're going for in the collector's market?
It seems that all this time, I wasn't as alone in this search as I thought. Turns out, people have been looking for these books for a while. I saw a few other comments on some of Steve's videos that weren't even related to IWR asking about the series, and begging for him to release the full text, to which he sadly only gave the same answer he gave me. The licensing contract was up, the series was out of print, and he wasn't at liberty to release it. But here, we had recent contact with an owner, the most recent I had seen thus far. This dude was active 9 months ago, still trying to sell his books to random commenters. And for all I knew, one of these commenters had made a deal with him in private, but there was a chance, a very good chance, that he still had them around, and he seemed very willing to sell them. This was my chance to shoot my shot. So, I replied to his top comment, asking him if he'd be willing to sell, and telling him where he could contact me. And then, I just sat back and waited. And waited. And waited. This might take a while. Man, I hope I can get a reasonable price out of this guy. Like, I'm willing to pay a lot for these things, but we know from this guy's past comments with Steve that he knows people have been offering these books for upwards of like $900, and that's a little bit too much even for me to handle if I'm being honest. Hopefully I can haggle him down to around the price of that OfferUp auction. You know, the one that was sold for like, actually, what was it again? Oh, right, $200. God, I mean, what a steal. I can't believe someone sold something that rare for so little.
Hi, Eric. That would be someone who has a physical copy trying to sell it.
Eric! Come on, Eric, why did you do this? You were supposed to be our golden goose, Eric. The savior of the video, Eric. How could you betray us like this? Why, Eric? Why? The fact that he waited a full 3+ years sitting around on these books, even after being informed that he was, his words, sitting on a gold mine, only to sell them for a measly $200 right before I started my search? I know it wasn't, but it feels purposeful. It feels malicious. Just as I was coming so close to victory, just as I was right about to claim my prize, the book gods swooped in again, lifted me by the seat of my pants, and plonked me right back into square one. This time, it seemed, for good. I was able to find a couple of other owners after this, but they were both dead ends. There was this Redditor who claimed to have purchased book 2 3 years ago, and there was this Dogo Books user whose Twitter I was able to find, but neither of them responded to my messages. Apparently, Shedletsky also owned a copy at some point, but he's too busy being Shedletsky, so that wasn't gonna help. I gave it my all. I looked at every possible resource one could to find a book. I contacted every random stranger I could think to contact, but I hate to say it, I think Roblox and the book gods win this one, guys. I'm not sure that a single page of this long-forgotten book series will ever make its way onto the internet again. I'm really sorry, I didn't want to let you guys down. I usually like to give my videos happy endings, but I can't lie to you either. And the sad truth of the matter is that, for all that effort, we're still right where we started. The only tangible thing we have of this book is this stupid little promotional gear. And there's a very likely chance that that's all we'll ever have. Wait a minute. Wait. I'm literally gonna bite someone. Yes, somehow, after all that research, after all those dead ends, after very nearly writing these books off as a lost cause, we found pages, and of all places, they were sitting right inside the very thing that started this search, this innocent-seeming promotional gear from 2014. Somehow, the idea to actually use this gear in-game and see if it did anything never even crossed my mind. Even if it did, it wouldn't have helped because it turns out it's broken now, but if it wasn't broken, I would have made a key discovery as a result. I might have also done that if I had bothered to read the description closely and actually take in all of what it had to say, as its first sentence is literally, read a sneak peek of Shards in the Code Episode 1 Volume 1. So, what happened? Well, I was sifting through the list of Roblox created models on the Creator Hub store, scoping them out for a completely different video topic, when out of nowhere I stumbled across this thing. RBXM_InfiniteWorlds_GUI. I have a confession to make. I actually knew about Infinite Worlds Roblox for a bit longer than just recently. That story I introed the video with about me stumbling across the book gear on the Roblox catalog actually happened in late August of 2023, or at least that's when I put it into my video ideas list. I sat on it for that long because after a quick cursory Google search, I realized that there was probably not much hope for me to find these books. Then, almost a year later, this model came up, and the words Infinite Worlds reactivated my interest in these books like a sleeper agent. Curious to see if it had anything to do with the book series, I immediately took this model, plugged it into the starter GUI of a random game, and bing bang boom, preview pages. 18 of them, to be exact. And now that we have those 18 pages, I think you know what we gotta do. We actually only have like 14 pages. 4 of them are the cover and the summary and a bunch of legal crap. Prologue. The steady impact of the battering ram against the main gate echoed throughout the rough-hewn stone castle halls like a repeating cannon shot. Thomas was already fully awake and sitting upright in bed when the queen rushed into her young son's bedroom. Okay, right off the bat, you guys are under a massive siege right now. Like, the army is at least big enough to have a battering ram. Why aren't you already with your son protecting him? Like, what's he doing all alone in bed? Seems like bad parenting. Her panicked look told him that something was wrong, but not what. For the first time in his life, he was looking at his mother's face without its permanent, warm smile. "What's happening, mother?" he asked. She scooped him up out of bed. "I am sending you somewhere safe." Again, why isn't he already somewhere safe? Why didn't you put him there before the massive battering ram army arrived? And what does this have to do with Roblox? She dashed to the fireplace built flush into the rough stone wall and placed her hand on a gray stone to one side of the mantle. A faint blue line ran down the length of the stone, scanning her palm. The stone flashed a bright green and the fire immediately extinguished. The fireplace split noiselessly in half, revealing a darkened space beyond. Lights flickered to life in recessed panels along the edges of the ceiling, illuminating the long corridor that glimmered with polished metal and smooth plastic, in stark contrast to the rustic stonework of the castle and surrounding township. Thomas's eyes grew large. "Mom?" "It's okay, sweetie," she replied as the fireplace slid closed behind them, silencing the constant crashing of the battering ram against the main gate. Once inside the tunnel, it felt as if they were cut off from the whole world. She hurried down the corridor with Thomas in her arms. At the other end, she paused before a closed door. A red light blinked to one side of the door, accompanied by a soft female voice devoid of emotion.
"Please state your authorization code."
"Tango Hotel Oscar, 286. The light blinked green twice, and the door opened with a rush of air. Beyond the enclosed corridor, the room opened into a massive cavern-like space, with blue lights pulsing along the ceiling, walls, and floor in a fluid motion. Thomas's father, the king, stood in the center, with his hands resting on the side of an open crate built into the floor. The blue lights that started on the ceiling ran down the walls and continued along the floor, all raced toward the crate at the center of the room. The king looked at Thomas and his mother as they entered the massive room. Thomas could see a single tear running down his father's cheek. His father had always been strong and powerful, afraid of nothing. Even when he had been wounded in battle with the neighboring kingdom, he had never shed a tear. This, in combination with his mother's serious face, told him something was horribly wrong. Yeah, no shit, eh? I'm surprised you couldn't tell from the loud-ass battering ram or the worldview-shattering futuristic hidden room that your medieval royalty parents just revealed to you. Thomas looked inside the crate, and his mouth fell open. His twin brother, Cade, was lying perfectly still inside. What happened to his brother? Thomas looked up in alarm. Is he dead? His mother bent down. "No, sweetie. We sent him somewhere safe." "Yeah, we sent him to a farm upstate where he can run around with all the other good little medieval space children. You'll get to see him soon, don't worry." Thomas looked down at the still form lying in the crate. He couldn't even see him breathing. Cade certainly looked dead. The king knelt down and placed a warm hand on Thomas's shoulder.
The rebels have breached the main gate and will be here in minutes. I need you to get inside, next to your brother.
Thomas looked into his father's eyes for a hint that everything would be okay. "What's happening?"
I'm afraid it's a little hard to explain. Maybe if we had more time.
His father's voice cracked. The pain written on his face sent Thomas's heart pounding harder in his chest. His mother finished for him. "Your father and I need you and your brother to be safe. It is time for you to leave this place." "Leave? Your brother has already been sent on ahead." Thomas looked into the crate at his brother. He looked at his father. "I don't understand." An explosion echoed from the corridor he and his mother had used to escape his room. She looked back and pulled a strange device out of her skirt. "I'll keep them back as long as I can." She ran toward the corridor and lightning exploded from the front of her device, discharging into the depths, followed by pain screams. Okay, who edited this book? That's not how you spell lightning. That's meant to be a period, not a comma. There's generally a ton of commas where there don't need to be commas. What the hell is going on? The king lifted Thomas and placed him into the crate next to his brother, laying him into a comfortable seat built into the base of the crate. "We will send someone to find you when it's safe. Your mother and I love you very much." "Wait!" Thomas cried, but his father pressed his hand on a panel on the side of the crate, and the blue lights on the ceiling reversed direction. Suddenly, his whole body felt lighter, and a wave of dizziness overcame him. And then nothing. Chapter 1. At 15 years of age, Max felt invulnerable in nearly every situation he found himself. But at the present moment, he was feeling very vulnerable. He was pinned down in the corner, paintballs splattering against the walls near him. He had already been hit twice in the faceplate in previous games. His attempts to wipe away the paint had only resulted in smearing it, so he had a small, clear window of visibility. He was breathing heavily from the fast sprint into his current position near the enemy base, and his hair was matted with a mixture of sweat and colorful paint. Wait, if he has colorful paint in his hair, doesn't that mean he already lost the game? Maybe he just uses paint as a hair dye. Unfortunately, the top to his hopper had come loose as he dove behind the barrier, and he'd lost nearly all his paintballs. He popped up and fired his remaining 3 rounds. He took out a player on the opposing team before he dropped back down to avoid the return barrage as paintballs exploded all around him. He was now out of ammunition. If he was playing at a regulated outdoor field instead of inside an old abandoned shopping mall, he could hold his marker in the air and safely walk to home base to get more paintballs. But he was not. The father of one of the kids at school he hung with owned the property. The father said he was waiting for the economy to improve before knocking down the dilapidated 2-story mall and redeveloping the land into the popular blended living and shopping complexes that seem to be popping up everywhere. So, every Saturday, Max and about 20 other kids took over the mall to conduct intense battle simulations. It also meant they played by their own rules. And those rules meant that when someone was out of ammunition, they became the perfect target. And today, that target had to deal with the cold autumn Virginia air that blew through the abandoned mall, which hardened the paintballs, making it hurt more before they broke apart. Noah, a boy the same age as Max with red curly hair, sprinted across the open space between barriers, narrowly dodging the flying paintballs that tracked his dash from safety as he headed for Max's position. Max saw him coming, but wasn't worried. Noah was on his team. Noah safely evaded every paintball propelled at him and skidded to his knees next to Max. "Noah!" Max exclaimed. "Why did you do that?" Noah reached into the pocket of his combat vest and pulled out a full bag of paintballs. "I couldn't let my best friend go down without a fair fight. You shouldn't have risked it. There were only 5 minutes left in the game. You could have survived if you'd stayed in the base." Noah topped off his hopper from the bag of paintballs and smiled. "Where's the fun in that? I'd rather die by your side." Max filled his hopper and tucked the empty bag into the pocket of his combat vest. Max snapped down the top of his hopper and looked at Noah. "Let's get that flag." Noah smiled behind his full-face mask. "Now you're talking." In a practiced move, like highly trained soldiers, they rounded opposite corners of the barrier and fired at anything that moved. All around them, players dropped to the ground in mock death as Max and Noah's paintballs burst on their chest and faceplates. They were getting closer to the enemy's base and their flag when Max saw movement out of the corner of his eye. He barely had time to react before he heard the rapid sputter of the electro-pneumatic marker as it spit 50 rounds per second at him and Noah. They both jerked in all directions, selling the kill as they were quickly covered in paint. They both collapsed to the ground as if dead. Noah shakily lifted himself to all fours and crawled over to Max, coughing spasmodically. It was an honor to die by your side." Noah let out a dramatic gasp, collapsed to the ground, rolled over on his back, and stuck his arms and legs in the air like a dead bug. "Why?" A blurred, shadowy figure stood over Max. "I win," the shadow remarked, and then bent down, offering a hand to help Max up. He took the hand and stood up, pulling off his mask so he could see who had bested him. His opponent pulled away her mask and let her long blonde hair fall down her back, shaking it out. One side of her mouth curled up in a half smile. "On or offline, I'm still better," she said. "Gamer girl alert! Gamer girl! Girl who games!" I didn't know they were allowed to do that. They must have added that in the new patch. That's crazy. Max wiped away the paint that had splattered through the grill of his mask and covered his lips in stale-tasting goop. "It's not like you're out saving the world or anything, Terry. It's just a game." Her smile faded. "That's the difference between us, Maxie. I treat everything like it's the real thing. I'm never just playing around. You, of all people, should be glad for that. Because of me, your first year of college is almost paid for." "Yeah, well, I created Paint Mall to replicate the mall so I could practice." "And you asked me to code it. The AI and player ranking I scripted made it huge. Now we're making bank off it." So I'm guessing that this is where they're finally talking about Roblox now. One, I'm pretty sure Roblox didn't have AI capabilities yet in 2014, and even if they did, I struggle to understand how that and a quote-unquote ranking system would single-handedly make a game huge. And two, DevX rates were piss poor in 2014. In September of that year, the 2 biggest DevX requests to have ever been fulfilled were from Lalaris and Bereza, who each earned $12,500. The only way this makes sense is is if Max is canonically Lolorus and Paintball is a nickname for Mad Paintball, which would set the story in Lithuania, and I'm not sure why they would be fighting the US military by the end of the series if that was the case. Maybe MatPat can figure it out. Max straightened up to his full height. Despite being a year younger than Terry, he was still an inch taller. Care to put your money where your mouth is? Terry smiled again. Anytime, anywhere. After dinner tonight, let's finish this online. What's the wager? Max tilted his head to the side as he thought. If I win, you do my homework for a week. Terry's smile widened. My dad asked me to clear out the gutters on the roof next weekend. I'm thinking you'll do it instead. Max stuck out his hand. Tonight then? Terry took his hand and they shook. Noah's eyes narrowed when he noticed that their handshake lasted more than it should have, and they held their stare a little too long. Noah watched as Max and Terry turned away from each other. Right before Max disappeared around the far barricade, he glanced back at Terry. Uh-oh, thought Noah. Period instead of comma there, quotation marks there and there. Please edit your goddamn story. Holy shit. So, there you have it. That's all we know of the officially licensed Roblox sci-fi book series Infinite Worlds Roblox so far. But it doesn't have to be. I'm publishing this video even though we have so little information about this series for two reasons. One, because even the 14 pages we do have are funny as hell, and two, as one last call for help. If you, or anyone else you might know, have access to these books in any form, be it electronic or physical, please reach out to me at my business email, nitrolordbusiness@gmail.com. If there's anyone that's nerdy enough about Roblox to have one of these books, I know it's probably one of my subscribers. You volunteering the contents of your book if you do own one would be instrumental in literature preservation, and you would be credited heavily in the video I'll make reacting to it if one of these books is found. Until then, however, I do hope you enjoyed hearing what little we do have of the Infinite Worlds Roblox series, and suffering along with me through my journey of finding it. Hopefully you can suffer through reading one of the full books with me very soon. Until then, I've been Nitrolord, and I'll see you all next time. Bye! Big thanks to Princey, Svikova789, Mech, Halo Clay, Headtrap, E. Adamus, Peasel Polsky, Theory Periastron, Below Flames, Lucky Boy, Kelman Foz, SSS Graded, Notice Astra, and all the amazing people you see on screen for supporting me on Patreon. Patreon.com/Nitrolord. A very good website.